Hey everyone, my name is Alex, and welcome to another episode of the Peace Action Exhibition podcast. Today I'm sitting down with a friend and a colleague of mine named Cuautli, who developed a peace contract that is really cool, and we're partnering with him to help spread it around. And hey, so how's it going?
It's going great. A wonderful day today, and I'm excited to be here and talk about the peace contract. And the way I'm branding it is kind of a tool for the future. And so I'm presenting it to you in a certain way, but really, if you sign the contract, if you commit to peace, um, there are multiple ways, perhaps that I haven't thought of, that
Mm-hmm.
it can be used. Again, if it's thought of as a tool, I think it can create a positive effect for the future of this world. And
Yeah.
that's the goal.
So, how did you come up with the idea to start off?
Uh, so, uh, so that's a bit of a story. I'll try to shorten it down a bit. It started off, I'm a student, or I was a student here at PSU, and I took a introductory to peace studies class with Tom Hastings here. And so he really introduced me into peace and nonviolence. And then uh, Donald Trump got elected into office, and he was taking the country in a direction that I disagreed with. And so that, and having the knowledge about peace and nonviolence now, um, I started to think of, well, what direction does this country and does, well, I ultimately came to discover you can't just stop at this country, the United States, you have to include the entire world. So, what direction do I want to take the world? And what direction does the world need to go? And I decided that the direction and the impact I wanted to take the world was in a direction of peace. So that led me to develop the contract as a way to, the way I've created it and I've defined peace in it as an overarching goal that anyone seeking to fight justice, equality, equity can get behind, can sign it, and then create coalitions to make that happen. So that
Okay.
was the whole idea.
And so, what does the peace contract entail?
So the peace contract, I believe the most important part is that uh, redefining peace, making it an overarching goal. And if I could read the definition to you right now,
Go for it.
peace goes beyond the mere absence of war. Eliminating war provides the environment for peacemaking to be able to begin. And then peace is an environment of justice, equality, and equity, where all individuals can reach their maximum capacity without suppressing others striving to do the same. And additionally, peace is free of fear, hate, prejudice, oppression, violence, and war. And then the last part is peace encompasses much more. So it's kind of an open ended definition. And the reason I created it that way was simply to, um, with the understanding that my knowledge of peace is limited. I feel like most people's knowledge of peace is limited. And as we go through the years and gain more knowledge about the world we want to see, uh, we need to add to the definition to create the world that we want to see and make a positive impact. So that's the last part of it there.
Right on. And to me, it seems like the definition of peace is really fluid, and to each individual, they might have their own definitions and ways of achieving peace. I mean, that can be anything from inner peace to peace in the community to environmental peace.
Yeah. No, I mean definitely. The definition of peace is fluid. One thing I believe is you can't really know absolute truth. You can know relative truth, but you can know what's not true. And so I feel like in the definition, the things that are extremely important is what peace is not. And peace is not fear, hate, prejudice, oppression, violence, and especially war. Eliminating war is the first step to creating peace or creating an environment where we can fully cooperate to solve the issues that this world needs to solve. Um, so yeah, it is fluid, but in a way, certain parts of it are also pretty firm, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
So, what are some of the agreements that you're making when you sign the peace contract?
Yeah, and so what the peace contract calls for, uh, it creates a collective. So when you sign the peace contract, you are agreeing to create a personal action plan. And basically, what that personal action plan entails is you pick, you research the problems that affect you and your community, and linking you and your community is very important because if you're just solving issues that affect yourself, well, you could just be benefiting yourself. And if you're just solving issues that help your community, I feel like that does a disservice to yourself. So you want to be able to link those two things. So create a personal action plan, go out and research what needs to be done, reach out to different people, create that plan, and go out and solve it. Go out and solve the issues in ways that you think are possible. And one of the important things about the personal action plan is you want to be sharing what you're doing. Because if you're not sharing, if you're not collaborating, if you're not reaching out, well then you're not going to be able to progress. The second part is it calls for a minimum time commitment, and that's 1% of your time, which equals about 7 hours per month. So when I started this, I felt that 7 hours a month is something that almost anyone can do. And if for some reason you can't do that because you have struggles in your life, well, you're the person that we should be fighting for. Uh, so, but I feel like for the most part, most people can do 7 hours a month for a time commitment. Uh, and what I've discovered in my own personal life is if you actually are committed to peace, you start off with that minimum time commitment, that 1%, uh, and you realize that that's not enough time and that you need to commit more. But maintaining that minimum time commitment is important. The third part is that you're committing your actions to being peaceful and nonviolent. So it's going out, researching what is nonviolence, what are the different methods of nonviolence. I personally believe that you can't reach a peaceful world through things such as violence and war. We've seen this strategy throughout history, and that just creates resentment, more violence, more war, more hate. It's a never-ending cycle. It can't be done. You combat violence with nonviolence, and that's how we're going to make a peaceful future. The fourth part is a self-evaluation, a monthly self-evaluation. So it's being honest with yourself, being sincere, and saying, are the actions that I'm taking, are they contributing to peace? What changes in my behavior can I make to contribute to peace? And then the last part is to evaluate other members and hold them accountable. So that's the great part about creating this collective is we all have the same overarching goal, so now we can hold each other accountable. Uh, for instance, an example I like to use is I work for the Trailblazers, um, and I'm around obviously a lot of millionaires there. And so, for instance, in the peace contract, one thing it might call for is for them to give more of their time, more of their money to helping out other people. Now, I'm not saying that spending that money on themselves, on their family, is something bad. Um, but if you're committed to creating peace, now that action might be in the wrong because you have that commitment. And we can say this about a lot of other things in our own personal life. For instance, if I am eating out a lot, that's not a bad thing. Treat yourself. That's important. Uh, but for instance, there's someone in this world that doesn't have enough food. So if I'm committed to peace, it's having the ability to say, do I need to do this? Do I need to go out and eat? Can I save this money and donate it or use it in some other way that perhaps I'm not donating it to someone else, but I'm using it to benefit me personally so I can help other people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so that's holding people accountable and holding yourself accountable. And that's the last thing that the peace contract calls for.
Yeah, so it seems like a really dynamic plan that, brings a lot of different things together to create the peace that we want to see. And so, what are some of these ways that people can accomplish their 1% of their time? I mean, it can be anything from planting trees to volunteering time to organizations.
Yeah, and I mean, I want people to evaluate their own lives, their own communities, and to really research, talk to people, and see what problems actually exist. I can't really speak for every community because that's different, and so I really want people to make that evaluation. But if people are having trouble coming up with things or a jumping off point or where to start, I do have a website. It's peoplespeace.org, and I do give out 15 things that people where people can start, and I'd like to highlight just a few of those 15 things. So the first one, like you said, is planting 5 trees. Now this may seem simple at first, but for instance, if you live in an apartment, you might not have a place to plant a tree, and so you might have to reach out to your community, to your local government, and say, well, can I plant these trees in a park? For instance, I know nothing about planting trees myself, so I might have to reach to a nonprofit organization in order to get that knowledge. And then another one I enjoy is emailing one or all of your representatives in government about an issue you care about once a week for a year. And so why I like this one is you're getting involved in our process of government, and you're holding people in government accountable, and you're letting them know about issues that you care about. And also, again, I like to make small commitments within here. So, for instance, it's once a week for a whole year. It's not just a one-time thing. So you're making a commitment for a long time. And then also from that, if they email you back, you're going to gain information. And so what are you going to do with that information? For instance, if they're completely against what you stand for, how are you going to vote when it comes time to vote? Is that going to be a deal breaker for you? The fact that they don't support the issues that you care about. Another simple thing someone could do is holding a garage sale and donating the money you make to an organization or cause of your choice. I know I have a lot of things that I don't need. And so again, it's making that self-evaluation and saying, I don't need these things. Let's hold a garage sale. While you're holding the garage sale, you can tell people why you're doing this. Tell them about the peace contract. Or you could go to a secondhand store like Crossroads or Buffalo Exchange, something like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to hold a garage sale, obviously. Go there, donate your clothes or whatever you have, and then with that money, use it to sponsor. There are a lot of nonprofits here in Oregon and Portland that do a lot of great work. So whatever you want to choose.
And I know that at Buffalo Exchange, their donation pile goes to a local nonprofit that gives the clothes for free to homeless youth.
Oh, I didn't know that actually. That's great though. But yeah, I mean, and it's also, I feel like it's also reusing materials that already exist. I mean, the whole exchange store program, and so we're not creating a demand for more clothes because someone's buying your clothes.
Yeah, being able to reuse what's already being made.
Exactly. So there are a lot of great things that come from committing to something small that perhaps I haven't thought of.
Well, I like the idea of getting involved with your local representatives.
Yeah.
And it just, people think that the only way to act politically is your vote every 2 to 4 years or whenever the voting cycle is. But by being civically engaged in your community, engaged in the workings of our society, you are acting politically. You're using your voice, using your actions to change the political spectrum, even if it's on a really small level.
No, I totally agree with that. And to me, it's more of also just gaining information. So when it does come to vote in November or whenever your voting cycle is, what information do you have about your candidates, about your community? That's going to impact how you vote. And so if you don't have that information, if you're not engaging your community, you're not going to have enough information to make the most out of your vote. And that brings me to another one on this list that I like, and that's developing a relationship with an unhoused homeless person. And so I know a lot of people say they want to help the homeless, but how can you do that if you don't understand what they're going through on a deeper level, and what their needs and what their issues are? Because we often, I'm at fault of this. I buy them food is usually what I do, but that doesn't solve the root of the problem.
No.
And so if you talk to them about their needs, you can get a better sense of who they are and how to help them. Just one more I'd like to highlight, and that's performing 5 favors or random acts of kindness, and instead of asking for something in return, ask for that person to do and ask the same. So you perform a favor for someone, and then you ask them if, for some reason, you give them like $10 or something, and then a week later they're trying to give that back to you. Be like, no. If you want, you can give that $10 to someone else, and then once you do give those $10 to someone, don't ask for those $10 in return. Ask for them to donate that money or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be money, and it's just this continual cycle. So it's starting this cycle, and those are just some of the 15 things that you can do. But again, I'd really encourage people to look at their communities and the issues that exist in there. For instance, I have some cousins in Houston, and when I visited Houston, something we take here for granted in Portland is recycling. And I went to Houston. I asked, I was like, where do I recycle this? I mean, every home here, at least that I know in Portland and in Oregon, has a recycling bin or a place to recycle, and they just kind of laughed at me. And not that they don't care for recycling, but it's just not a thing in Texas. And so that's something that's not on the list here. But if you care about the environment, about the planet, about reusing, reducing recycling, that's something that you can start, a project you can begin with. And so, yeah.
That's one cool thing that I think Oregon's trying to do is raise the bottle return from 5 cents to 10 cents.
Oh, really?
And there's one other state that's done that, at least. I think, Minnesota or something.
Yeah.
And it raised their level of percentage of people that recycle by 30% or something. I don't remember the actual stat, but just raising the return value got more people to actually care about.
Yeah, that's great. Do you know how that initiative is being started, or?
It's either grassroots or just going through local government. I don't remember.
Yeah, and I mean, at least me, I don't really think about when at least up front when I'm paying it, I don't really think about that 10-cent or 5-cent deposit.
No, you don't.
But it is a nice incentive. You get a few bucks back when you collect those bottles.
One thing that I always do is I leave my bottles out for people to go and take.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I used to live right next to a bottle return, and I would just go and hand over,
Oh, that's
all
cool.
my
Yeah,
recyclables.
yeah. No, I've definitely seen a lot of people. It's almost like their job. Like they just go around and they.
Well, yeah, certainly. And I mean, what does that say about our society that people are scavenging for
Yeah.
bottles
No, definitely.
to feed themselves? I
Yeah.
mean, and obviously, it's much worse in other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this documentary about people in Brazil that their literal job every day they go to landfills to
Yeah.
look for recyclables.
Yeah. No. I've seen that videos or parts of documentaries where, yeah, in a lot of places of the world, it's recyclables, scrap metal, things like that. They just go to junkyards, uh, and just what people consider trash, they try to recycle that, and that's how they make their living.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, you are about to go on an adventure with this peace contract.
So I am. I talked about minimum commitment and how that's evolved. And what that's evolved to is I've created a goal for myself to essentially try to canvas, which is typically door to door knocking, the entire nation. I call it canvassing across America. Uh, and this summer, I'm going to start here in Oregon, parts of southern Washington, and maybe if my legs still have enough juice, plan a trip to Northern California. Uh, but yeah, so that's my goals. I feel like canvassing is a great way to directly communicate a message to people to get the word out. Also, I'm doing it in a somewhat extreme way, going on foot. And so hopefully that will create more attention to the issue I'm trying to highlight. Um, yeah, that's basically my plan, what I'm trying to do, and what I'm trying to accomplish with that. Right now, I'm planning on leaving June 4th here this Sunday, and my first trip is going to be going to the capital. And again, you can see all this information on peoplespeace.org. And then I have another trip planned for the coast. So I'm going to go up I-30 to Astoria and then go all the way down to Newport. And then I'm gonna call it good right there.
Yeah.
But see how my legs respond to that. And yeah, so that basically the plan is I run to a city in the morning, I canvass it in the evening when more people are at home, and then I go to sleep and I do it all over again.
Are you going to be camping or couch surfing?
And so one of the ways you can actually support me is to host me. So I'm asking people around here, Oregon, if they hear about what I'm doing, to invite me to their city, to their church, to their school, whatever it may be. And if it's nearby, I'll plan a trip there. I may need to, for instance, if it's in Corvallis, let's say, I do know people along the way, but let's say I didn't, I may need to camp in a few places to get there. But you can host me in your city, and let just say a week or a few days, and I'll go run around, do my thing, and yeah, I feel like that's one of the best ways that you can support the work that I'm doing is to invite me to your city. Mm-hmm.
And then sign the contract.
And obviously sign the contract. I feel like
and make your action plan.
Yeah. No, yeah. I feel like if you're hosting me, you're probably you've already committed somewhat to peace at that point. At least that was my hope. That was my assumption. No, yeah, and there's actually 3 other ways you can support me in my run. So it's obviously the most important is signing the peace contract and developing a personal action plan, because if we have peace on this earth, well, there's no need for me to run, and I kind of I'd like to stop running someday. So it's that's the most important thing. The second is hosting me. The third would be to sign one of my petitions. That's on my website. And the two petitions that I have on there, one essentially calls for the abolishment of war. And that's more to see just how many people actually support that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So if we all collectively acted, and I feel like it's a majority of the population,
Sure.
Except perhaps for some people who work for certain companies that profit from war, the majority of the population don't want war to continue and they want it to end. And so I started that petition to essentially, so you could see how many people support that goal. And then the second one is it's calling for the creation of a Department of Peace here in the United States. And so we already fund, it's called the United States Institute of Peace, but the funding is very low. I believe it's 38 million that go there annually, and that's under that's at jeopardy right now in the with the current administration.
Oh, they're gonna defund it, you think?
It might get cut. I had the privilege of speaking to one of their directors. Students United for Nonviolence here at Portland State. A group brought him to speak, and his name's Darren Cambridge. So I got a privilege to meet him. They do great work. I feel like that could be a model, the work that they do for a Department of Peace. And the reason I want it to be a executive department is because we have a Department of Defense, which used to be the Department of War, and that is funded by more than $500 billion. And so if we're it's like 528 point something billion. It's a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, and Trump, the Trump administration with their current budget is proposing to increase that by 54 billion. Is that?
So I just learned of a fun thought experiment.
Yeah.
To try to visualize how much a billion is.
Yeah.
So think of how many days it would take for 1 million seconds.
I don't even know that.
It's hard to even know.
Yeah.
So 1 million seconds
Uh-huh.
is 11 days.
Okay.
So 1 billion seconds. How long do you think that is?
That would be, what, 10,000 days?
It's 31 years.
Oh, shoot.
So the difference between...
Yeah, that's a lot.
And then a trillion is like 31,000 years.
Yeah. That's a lot.
A lot of
That's
money.
a lot. No, and so actually, on the resource page on peoplespeace.org, it's the National Priorities Project. And they actually, one of the great things on there is they have an interactive data tool thing. And so you can do trade-offs on there. So you can click your city or the United States, for instance, and see what that money can do for other services. So if you care about public education, how much that would fund public education. If you care about creating clean energy jobs. And you can mix them too. So if you care about both of those things,
sure.
you can click on both and see what that can do. And so, for instance, here in Portland, something like Pell Grants, I believe it was around 200,000, and don't quote me on this, but we contribute, I think it was a little over $1 billion in taxes, just Portland, Oregon, to the Department of Defense. And that could pay for around 200,000 students getting $5,000 worth of Pell Grants for 4 years. So that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people. I feel like that's more students. A majority of the students here in the state of Oregon that are going to school.
What is it? There's 30 2,000 at PSU, and then about 22-ish for U of O and OSU each.
So that's, yeah. And then I don't know about the other colleges. That's why.
They're all pretty small in comparison.
Yeah.
Those are probably
But I feel like that would cover more of the students. All of the students could receive Pell Grants for 4 years, and sums of more than $5,000. I mean, I know being a college student, one of the reasons why I stopped going to school was first I was training to canvas and to go on my run, but B, I couldn't pay for school and train to run because I would need to get a second job to continue paying for my school. And so I know a lot of people, for the majority of my time here at PSU, I've been working two part-time jobs.
Sure.
But I've been working two jobs to pay for my schooling. So I know being a student, that would go a long way. It makes it so I can focus more on my schooling, on what I want to do.
Sure.
And people think that us students here, people might think that with the extra time we're going to be using it to party or something like that. But personally, as a student, I need time also to relax, know, and so I can be fresh for my field of study, which is community development. And oftentimes we don't have that time. We don't even have time to really study for tests. Before I chose my major, it was really difficult for me because I couldn't study for all 3 or 4 of my finals. And so I'd have to choose, which class am I probably going to get a B in, or put less focus on studying and things of that nature.
Well, that's the thing, because if, for one, you're choosing to get an education.
Yeah.
And you also get to choose what your focus is, and obviously you want it to be something that you're interested in.
Yeah.
So if you're spending a large portion of your time working, you're not getting the full, benefits of going to school, and you're not taking advantage of your learning and really getting completely, involved in what you're doing.
No, definitely. And for instance, I worked for this apartment complex, and learning all the different, all the different rules, all the different policies, that takes time. It's like almost studying for a class in itself.
Sure.
And so mentally, that it's not only your time, but mentally, you're being taken away from your studies, where you have to focus on 2 separate things, and things that aren't even, I may be able to type, but somehow community development is pretty an interdisciplinary field, but again, there's separate issues. It's not just your time; it's your mental effort that's being divided, and that can be tough. That's been my experience. Yeah.
Well, it's no wonder that countries with free higher education, are just doing really well.
They perform better. Yeah. No, definitely. In Europe, one of my professors, he was from Norway.
Some of the best education in the world.
Yeah. No, yeah, he come 2 terms here because he liked Portland too. So he'd come teach here for 2 terms, and then he'd go for half the year to Norway. And he said if I didn't like Portland so much, I probably wouldn't come to the United States. I just stay in Norway. Because they do offer their citizens a lot of benefits. And like I said, for the most part, it's just having, being at ease. That I feel like that's the greatest benefit. Because if for some reason I got sick, not only do I have to worry about making up my school, it's making up my job too. Yeah, and then now I can't pay for school. So it's so much stress on so many different levels. And for people that are working, it's the same thing. If you for instance, my uncle's here from Houston, and I was asking him, well, are you willing to commit to something? He's like, I totally support you, but his wife um, she's aging, and she's having some health issues. He's like, I have zero time if I stop working. Um well, she's gonna die, because I won't be able to afford health insurance. Uh, and that's one thing. I mean, it's great that Obamacare in this country got passed, but in my opinion, we need to switch to a single payer, single delivery system, and hold companies accountable and lower drug prices. I mean, there's we can do a whole podcast on the health insurance. Getting a little off topic, but yeah.
No, that's okay. They're all relevant topics that are detracting from our ability to be as peaceful as possible.
No, definitely. Like I said, it's an overarching goal, peace, and things like health insurance. There are things that fall under that umbrella.
Affordable education.
Yeah, affordable education. I always give the example, my initial perception, growing up in the public education system, my definition of peace was the mere absence of war. And if you looked at Obama's Nobel Peace Prize, that's the definition that he gives in his acceptance speech. And I've heard several times Donald Trump use that same definition in speeches that he's given. But if we don't have things like health insurance, or taking it more to an extreme, countries, I mean, it's not really an extreme, it's reality.
Yeah.
Countries where people don't have food, don't have water, don't have some place to sleep, you can't be at peace, like you are constantly in a state of struggle. And so those things need to happen. Those needs need to be met in order for us to be in a peaceful society, in a peaceful environment.
Yeah, we call that structural violence.
Yeah.
And conflict resolution. And I think that's one of the types of violence that gets underlooked. And like how are the systems that we live under affecting us in a detrimental way, and how are we being oppressed? And looking at how we can change the systems, or, fix the systems if possible.
Yeah.
So that there's not this level of structural violence, which I think is important. And, this contract is a way to get people to commit to examining these structures that aren't serving us.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one of the sayings I like to say a lot is, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, how much is an action, even if it's small? And basically, what that means is, commit to peace. Commit to this goal. But even if you start small, start and let's start it now. At least personally, I've spent too much time thinking of what can be, instead of going out and just doing and trying to solve the same problem in different ways. And I mean, going on my run, you can argue about the effectiveness that might have, the impact that may have, and I may discover that it's not very effective at all, but it's one way to solve the problem. It's one way to get information out to people, and if I discover that it's not working, I'm gonna perhaps stop doing that, but start something else, and continue, because I am committed to peace.
Sure. I mean, if anything, you're starting the conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the really cool aspects of conflict resolution is program analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see that your program isn't having the effect that you want, how do you fix that? And I mean, that's really what you're looking at doing on a global level. I mean, with this idea of peace. It's really just analysis of the programs that we live under.
No, yeah, definitely. And that's why,
Systems.
yeah, that's why the peace contract, one of the big components of it is that accountability, and it's that monthly evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Analyzing, yes, I am doing something to contribute to peace, but can it be done better? Can it be done more effectively? How can I better use my time? Because time is valuable, and it's making that evaluation and then making changes and then sharing that, because someone might want to do a run like similar to mine, and now I have information to give to them on how perhaps maybe what not to do,
Sure.
what to do better, things like that. But I have that information, and it's out there, and people can access it, and that's really important. And it also free information. Don't I mean one of the ways to support me on my run is to donate to me, but really that's the least important thing is money.
You have a donation page set up on your website?
Yeah, it's on the website, but like I said, it's really the least important thing. You could donate $1 million to me, and I could run till the end of my lifetime with that money. But like I said, I don't want to keep on running. That's not my goal.
Have you've been training, right?
Yeah, I've been training.
How much are you running a day?
So it varies, but typically, and it also depends if I'm here in Portland or if I'm in my home, my parents' home in Hubbard, if I'm visiting there. But when I'm here in Portland, what I typically like to do is go on a long run to Mount Tabor, which is about 10 miles here from the PSU campus. And then originally I was just going to go straight across the country, but I slightly altered that, as I previously mentioned, just to mainly focus on Oregon to begin with this summer.
Well, I think that's a great place to start, just
Yeah.
because, for one, people in Oregon are accustomed to being canvassed. They know what that is.
No, yeah, definitely.
Which isn't probably the case everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you're doing it in the summer. There's no.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most beautiful places
No,
in
definitely.
the country.
Yeah, great weather. It's gonna be hopefully 80 all the time.
It's gonna get hot though.
Yeah.
I mean, running in 100-degree weather is gonna be fun.
No, yeah. There's gonna be at least 1 week that it's gonna be terrible.
Just make sure to go to the coast then.
Yeah, no,
Still
definitely.
A little cooler.
Yeah,
It's got the wind.
yeah. Hopefully not. It's not blowing in my face. That would not be.
That'd be brutal.
That'd be brutal. Yeah. But yeah. So I do that run to Mount Tabor.
That's
and
like uphill. A lot of it too.
It's nice because I don't realize it, but going there is uphill, and it's not
It's not too terrible.
It's not a huge incline, but when on the way back, when I'm tired, and for the most part, that's downhill.
Yeah.
Although after the waterfront, going up that little portion is uphill, that does kill me.
Yeah.
At the end there. And then also I like to do a shorter but faster run along the waterfront. So I go to the Steel Bridge, and then to the Tillicum. And that's like approximately 6 miles.
Yeah, that's a good loop.
Yeah, and then if I'm up to the challenge, I'll run some stairs. Like up here in the hills, there's a good staircase.
I know the one. There's a great view on the top of that too.
Are you talking about the Broadway Staircase or?
No, well, the one in the south. I guess there's a couple in the south.
Yeah.
But I know one that's really good.
We're probably talking about the same one. It's a good staircase. It's just outside here, PSU campus, and I'll do that. That it varies more. It really
Sure.
It's how I'm feeling, but I learned that kind of cross training is really important when you're preparing a run like this, and so I feel like my lungs are pretty much where I want them to be.
Yeah, you
But
feel like you're in good shape for the most
yeah,
part?
yeah. But strength wise, like, because I did already run home to Hubbard here from Portland, and that's a little over 30 miles depending on which route you take. Uh, and my legs
We're donezo.
were I mean they were donezo afterwards. And I mean this was a few weeks ago, so I'm in better shape now. Uh, but I definitely my lungs were fine.
Mhm.
But it was just my legs, like they needed to get stronger at that point. Yeah.
Sure. Are you going to you're gonna run to the coast? Are you gonna take there's a there's a trail from Washington Park, I think,
Is
that
there?
goes all the way to the coast.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that. I kind of wanted to stay on I-30, mainly because I want to be visible.
Sure.
So I'm planning on, putting a little sign on my back as I'm running. Uh, and so I'm canvassing, I'm advertising for peace.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it's the same trail. I know there's like this long road, kind of back road to get to the coast.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I once accidentally took, and it was horrible.
Driving? You took a driving?
Yeah, so I used to work for this like gym floor. We like we redo gyms, make them
Mhm.
nice and shiny again. And we had a gym in Astoria, and
You took the long way.
I wasn't driving. And my buddy who was driving, he just randomly turned, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, this is not the way. Like, just go to Seaside." We weren't going on I-30. We were going like to Seaside and then up. I forget what the highway is. I'm like, this is not the way. He's like, "Oh no, this is what the GPS says. Like, it's a highway," and
Yeah.
it was unpaved. It was loopy.
Did you guys turn around?
No, because we it was too late at that point. We had gone too deep. It was and we were on a time schedule too. That was the thing. Like, we had to be there at a certain time. And yeah, it was horrible. Also because we're driving a fairly large van because it has all the equipment to do what we were doing, and
It wasn't fun.
it was not. It wasn't fun for him. He was the one driving. I was just laughing in the passenger seat at that point. But yeah. But yeah, that's why I chose to kind of go up Highway 30. It's just visibility. I want people to be like, what's that guy doing there? And
once you get back to Portland, you're going to be able to canvass Portland for a long time.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I used to canvass for Osberg, and I worked there for. It's a big city.
Yeah.
You can almost canvass. I could canvass a neighborhood for a whole summer, and really do it properly, just by myself. Yeah, it's a small city, but covering it by yourself is difficult. But you can canvas too. On my website, I have a how-to canvas.
Yeah.
You can go out on your own. You don't have to use the script that I'm using. It's just, again, these are like jumping off points.
Mm-hmm.
Go out, tell people about alternatives to war, tell them about peace, spark a conversation with them, make them think. What does peace mean to them, Just asking that question, I feel like, is really important. It gets people thinking.
Yeah.
And then once they're thinking about it, what are they going to do with that information? Are they going to make a change in their lives, to their behavior, who they're voting for, etc.? It just kind of trickles down.
Well, I'm definitely down to come canvass with you.
Hey, anytime.
like I told you, I canvassed for Environment Oregon.
Oh yeah. What issue were you guys working on at the time?
It was to get logging companies to stop logging around Crater Lake National Park.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Because the national park boundaries are protected.
Yeah.
But companies will literally clear cut up to the border. And Sonora National Park.
Yeah.
And just that whole area, there's so many tributaries and
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel
waterways.
like just outside is still gonna affect the
The
wildlife
ecosystem
Yeah.
for the inside the national park. Well, and that's the thing. It's right kind of in the middle of Oregon in the southern part, and it's kind of like a corridor for wolves or
Yeah.
deer and everything to kind of migrate through.
Okay.
So if you're destroying the land, it's really messing up where they breed and everything.
Okay. I did not know a lot about that.
But no, it was a cool campaign.
I feel like they're actually because you talked to me. You were doing that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And my roommate, he worked with Environment Oregon for a little bit, and they were actually still working on that.
Yeah. No, they've been
issue.
doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's an important issue, and people obviously love Crater Lake.
Yeah.
And that area, and
been to it twice. It's amazing. Yeah.
Have you ever been in? Have you gone in? Did you get in the water?
I didn't get in the water. No.
It's so cold.
Is it?
So cold.
I feel like that's why I chose not to. Actually,
you should. If you go again in the summertime, I encourage you. There's a trail down to like where the boat goes. There's one boat allowed in there.
Yeah.
And there's a rock you can jump off of. It's cold.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
it's really cold.
No, actually, the time I went there, it was in the spring, but there was still a lot of snow there.
Yeah, there's still snow right now.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was around this time actually, or perhaps a few weeks before. But it was great because I mean it was like 70 out, but like you got to play with snow and like it just completely changed how it looked compared to the other time I went. But one thing I like to say, if you haven't been to Crater Lake, great place to go, and it looks just like it does in the pictures. Like sometimes you'll go to places and you're like, oh, this looks slightly different. But I haven't seen a picture of Crater Lake that looked better than the actual lake.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's really truly impressive.
Yeah.
It's the deepest lake in the country. Right?
Is
it's
it?
the second deepest in the world.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. It's I knew at one point, but I think it's 1,700 and something feet deep.
Wow.
That's why it's so cold.
Yeah.
Well, and all the water, it's just ice runoff.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's all, damn.
Well, I think your adventure is going to be really cool. I wish you the best of luck.
No, thank you.
I hope you don't like sprain an ankle or anything.
Well, I mean, maybe if I'm going on a wheelchair, that'll attract more attention. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what I'd do if I'd sprain an ankle. Yeah, definitely. When I was running to Portland or to my house in Hubbard, you have to like sometimes go on the ditch and like I wouldn't be careful enough and I'd like roll it a little bit, but
oof, careful.
I got good ankles still. I'm still young, so yeah. But
all right. Well, thanks for
knock on wood here.
Thanks for coming and talking. Once again, you can get on the website at peoplespeace.org.
Mm-hmm.
Our website is peaceactionexhibition.org. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Thanks for listening. Hey, man, thank you.
No problem.